The Olympic Games is actually the world's biggest event. That nothing at all is bigger than the Olympic Games. My boss, Hugh Sumner, who you'll have seen on the video link this morning, always likens it that from transport and logistical point of view, there's nothing other than all-out war actually creates such a logistical and transport situation. There's over 200 countries, 5,000 Olympic family, 17,800 athletes, 22,000 media and over 7 million tickets. If you think of the World Cup, it's about 10 times the size of the World Cup. And the Paralympic Games, which takes place 2 weeks later, and as everybody would see in Beijing, the Paralympic Games has come of age. It started in this country, and we expect it to go on from strength to strength. Over 170 countries competing. 1,000 Paralympic family, 4,000 Paralympic athletes, and over 1.4 million tickets. And that's not accounting for the huge global audience who are watching it right throughout the world. From a transport perspective, one of the key things is when it all starts and finishes. Because although the Games itself is only over a fairly short space of time, everything that starts and finishes all go on the other side of that. So everything we have to do in terms of transport has got to take into account all those other parts of it. So, of course, there's the opening of the Olympic Village, there's the opening of the Olympic Park, there's the events itself, there's the test events, and there's all the other elements as well that go into it. And then there's a short gap, and then there's the Paralympic Games. And the Paralympic Games takes place a little bit later in September, actually when the schools have gone back. And again, as I say, when we now see what kind of demand the Paralympics have, then it's going to be quite a challenge to make sure that we can cope with the numbers that we're likely to see in that. The overall challenge of Games transport is basically to provide a sort of safe and secure and reliable transport across all the client groups, and that's both the Olympic family, spectators. But we've got to keep London moving, and we've got to keep the rest of the UK moving. We can't have the whole place grown into a hole. And wherever possible, we've got to leave a legacy, and we've got to achieve maximum value for money. And we all know there's lots of pressure on public money these days, lots of stories in the Standard. You don't have to not read the Standard for very many days before you come across a story about the Olympics. And the strategy generally is all about prioritising the athletes, a public transport game, a 100% public transport games, which are accessible and which are sustainable. I want to move on because the time's rapidly going already, I've just noticed. The project objectives of the bus and coach side for spectators is basically to provide 4 different groups of services for people to be able to get to the games. And very quickly, it's direct coach services, and we call them direct because, as the name would suggest, you go direct to the venue, strategic park and ride, and then 2 lots of services around the venues themselves, which is a park and ride service and shuttle services. This project that I'm on specifically excludes local buses, and although there is a programme for local bus enhancements, it's actually separate to this one. And why are we doing it? Well, most of you in this room are in the transport business, and you will probably tell me better than I will tell you that demand modelling in general suggests that about 10% of people will travel to a sporting event or a cultural event by bus or coach, and then probably a further 11% or so by park and ride. Events, for example, that take place in say, Wembley can actually get as many as 50% mode share on bus and coach. You know, you think of perhaps a football match where the 2 teams are from the north and everybody clubs together, gets on their supporters club coaches and heads to Wembley. So even though that 10% figure's there, it could be a lot higher than that. Of course, it could be a lot lower than that. We made a commitment to running these services in the Olympic Transport Plan, and I'm not sure whether Bayo mentioned it this morning, but under the terms of the Olympic and Paralympic Act, we have to publish a transport plan which explains how people are going to be able to get to the Games and explains how we organise the transportation. And we made a commitment to running bus and coach services in that transport plan. We want to offer a flexible choice for consumers where rail isn't always the most obvious or the best alternative. And in this particular context, bus and coach offers a very good alternative for people who have got a mobility issue, and that doesn't have to be even people with disabilities, people with families. You know, you want to take grandma, grandpa, all the kids, all the paraphernalia, the prams, the pushchairs. It's a logistical nightmare. Getting on board a bus or a coach might actually just offer a better opportunity for you.